Well, because besides being a navigator, you were didn't you also?
Oh, that was a long way away.
but you worked the machine guns.
Everything had to be slow and easy.
Well, he's a radio operator.
That was.
Oh wait, that's right.
That was a big thing. Yep.
Well, because we're using the machine guns on those bombers besides radio operating.
Yeah, and I told Aaron about that. That I thought was the principal job, and I got the worst dressing job I ever got in my life. And about our third mission from the lieutenant that was head of that. From then on, I sent him reports like you wouldn't believe.
Well, what happened?
Before I was through, I was offered his job.
What?
But I had to stay till the war was over in Europe. And I didn't want to do that.
Well,
That would take a whole years to tell the whole story.
You've heard the whole story quite often.
And now, where do you want to go from here, Bill?
Well, some of it actually seemed like it was kind of interesting. You were stationed over in outside of London for most of it. Had something like 46 missions.
Well, that Ireland.
In Ireland, how many missions?
And 66.
66.
Not counting sweeps across to. They kept building these little chutes for the buzz bombs, you know, they look like roller coasters. And they're built by slave labor, the Ukrainians or whatever they drive. So if the weather was too bad deep in Germany, we would go over and knock those down, Heavy and also Crossroads. I remember one afternoon there was a stand down, and I was down writing a letter to Eileen. And the tannoy system went off and it said our group report to the flight line. I got that, all we did was go over to France, and here was a road, crossroad, and maybe little village with maybe 6 buildings with little business. Let's call it Ridgeville. And then circled around, and Captain who are the lead bombers said we didn't like what it was. Let's do it again. The wind wasn't right or something. We did it again. Instead of hitting the crossroads, they went right into all the buildings. It's a clear day and no German fighters. Nothing. What do you do with what that little village go?
It's terrible.
Small little mistake, but what? There goes about 250 Frenchmen, maybe.
I see.
Never felt that way.
Well,
but,
did you know that that Armin was at where were you when we were at Limelight?
Well, we were in Norfolk.
Norfolk. He was stationed in Norfolk, and he came over to see us.
No.
Blake is over here on the side, and he's enjoying the conversation.
Good morning, Mr. Blake.
He's tired.
Well, let's see. Why I never could understand why, when you finished your first missions, you didn't come home.
That's a good question.
Why, you only had to do so many missions?
No.
25. There's not a single
66.
B-17 or 24
No,
ever
that
did
doesn't make
25
sense, does
missions.
it?
The Piccadilly Lily. It's
Is
a
that the name of yours?
B-17, and it did 23. And not a single B-17 or 24 did 25 minutes. And people accordingly.
I'm not sure what you mean. You mean they were shot out of the air faster than that?
Yeah.
So you must have had a lot of different planes.
Remember Andy Rooney? No, we didn't have enough, but by 44 we did.
No.
It's awfully interesting to watch the old early pictures of the 8th. They flew straight and level.
There's a fly.
And you see the later, we fly like geese, a high and low wing, a V. Then you had Taylor and Charlie up here that was always a dead duck. So In order to fix that, they filled it full of about 3 times as many machine guns as the others. And when they came for it, they got an awful lot of fire. And they also were screw-ups. AWOLs and whatever, you know. They were stuck with everything that way. That's what we did with it.
Is that where you use the word?
No.
What happened? What's the first time you were shot down?
Well, the very first was
What mission was it?
about none the first 10. And that included Berlin. The first one was before I got my teeth there. I have to look at the records.
He has them all.
It was, what's that big German in the North Sea?
Raven, Hamburg,
Raven. That put us in the North Sea. Awful lot of flack. Hanover was another. Munich twice. Well, we weren't really shot down. We just didn't make it back to home base. Well, once in the Channel, we were only about 18 miles off the Scottish coast. We owe that to a P-40. He was flying under our belly. He said, little boy's a big boy. He was out of ammunition and he wanted to fly on us. We had ammunition, but we didn't have any gasoline. And you remember right off the coast of my memory, Dunkirk, there's an island there, and the Germans filled it full of 88s to shoot strikers. So we were approaching that with no way to avoid it, and we were too low anyway. So he dived on him with no ammunition or anything to distract him.
What about?
But we ran out of gas maybe about 8 miles out, and it was rough. I mean, the waves were higher than this.
So was this the British plane or American?
Ours. P-47.
I mean, the little fellow.
Ours. It's a P-47 fighter. You know that, have you seen the guy that selling oil, the Dell? He sold Delco. He's the first one to break the speed of sound.
Oh, wow.
At the bar in Victoria, we wouldn't let him drink with us. Because fighters then, they could only go across the channel, they'd have to go back. And we said, well, when you get room, go up and get ready for the big war, come see us.
What was
And
his-
one day, he shot down 5 German planes in one afternoon, you know.
Did that impress
And he
you?
also was one of the few that was shot down and came back.
Escaped.
He wears a Caterpillar. We're talking about the
Oh, the
little
one
guy
that-
that sells Delco.
He's a general now.
Oh,
General.
Yeah, the 8th grade West Virginia education, but he can fly like a bird.
yeah.
We wouldn't let him drink with us, Phil,
Why not?
because fighters. We tell him, when you go up and ready for the big war, come see us. All they could do is cross the channel, and then they go back to England, and we have to go for 8 hours.
Oh, so
we
you-
wouldn't let them sit and drink with us.
So you look down on fighter pilots.
Oh, and then,
Yeah.
and when they did extend it, that was was that great to turn on the fighter channel. You could hear choo-choo-choo-choo-choo, cussing and yelling and all that kind of stuff, you know. That's 20 miles away. I couldn't even see him, but it was sure nice it wasn't around us. All we had to worry about then was flak. We always crossed between Dunkirk and Ostend, and Rommel set up a radar screen oblong shape that extended from Norway to Spain. So they knew when we were forming in England how many, then they want to know where we're going. That's when we used to divide, and we also had alternative targets for weather. But right across Ostend, we call them the kids. That was the first fight. You had 4 fighter attacks going and coming. So you'd have 8 air barrels each mission, plus flak. They didn't last long, but it would take long.
Yeah. So the average life of
What I
B-27 was...
what I hated worse is what you call the IP when you turn it over to the bombardier and you got about 10 minutes of
10 minutes, that long?
10 minutes. And all you can do is just, no fighters are there because they don't want to get hit by their own flag. And they don't shoot at anybody individually. They put up what they call a box barrage, about maybe 5 miles. And they just load, and I found out later that half of them shooting down there were girls.
No.
Girl artillery, German. It filled the whole air with this stuff, and it was, you're just like a pigeon flying through shotgun.
Well, what elevation
You
were
get
you
it.
going?
About 19,000.
And what elevation could you go up to?
I mean,
How high could you go up to? Because you didn't have pressurized
Even-
cabins, just oxygen.
well, you have to stay down in order for accurate bombing, which wasn't very accurate as it was, even with the northern broadside. If you could get within 5 miles, you do pretty good because of windage, whatever. And we all dropped on the main. And another thing, one guy triggered the whole business.
There was just one bombardier that was in front of it, and everybody would drop out.
And there were no navigators. We kept our navigators maybe, kept it maybe 6 weeks. We flew 9-man cruises, didn't need a navigator for just to go to Germany. So they went and did so. Ted was a commanding officer in Turkey when we got kicked out of Turkey.
That's what she said.
Ted was junior prince.
Now, so what was the mission that you were first forced down in the North Sea for English Channel?
Have to look at it.
And
Wasn't the last one, and I flew 4 extra after I told Eileen. All done. Everybody went home and here I was left all behind.
Why were you left behind? Would they force them to go over 25
Why?
minutes?
Did what? No, you had to volunteer. If you did 25 minutes and were alive, you'd go home.
Why didn't
And
you?
you'd spend a year in the zone of the interior, then you go to Japan. That was the setup. Everybody went home, but I didn't get any orders.
Did you try to get?
That happened all the time, you know, at Salt Lake. I had a good friend, and he was still at Salt Lake when it turns out his father was a Bundes, you know, in New York.
They didn't
The
trust
poor
him.
guy. That's just what. Well, next thing you know, I did get orders to report to Supreme Headquarters. I didn't know what Supreme Headquarters, #1, Marble Action said. So I went to London and checked into the Regent Palace Hotel right there at Trafalgar, because it was cheap. Because I didn't know I was getting specs paid or what. And that was the night the buzz bomb thing got hit in the head with a picture of Henry to something or other.
I can't understand it had me make you do 66 missions while somebody else got only 25.
Well, I volunteered it.
And what kind of plane?
I didn't want to come home. It was so horrible here.
What was horrible here?
I didn't want to come back to the United States. I'd rather be there
I
than
can't
here.
imagine that.
What's the matter with him? I think he's sick this morning.
So,
Why wouldn't you want to come home?
government here is horrible. All right.
What?
Put it this way. I'm in Salt Lake City. And I leave Eileen at the hotel and I said, honey, I'll be back. I didn't see her again until, how long?
You're talking about Salt Lake City. What do you mean Salt Lake
Well, I
City?
reported out to the fairgrounds.
Oh, that.
This night of, you're in, buddy, and here you stay. And that was the Army, not the Air Force. I had to do Army bivouacs. You know, the helmet, the rifle, the 40-pound pack.
Do you mean
I
after
don't
being
know
a
when I
radio?
saw Eileen that
They
boy.
didn't do that Air Force.
Why, sure,
when they
we
came
were
back-
Army.
When they came